everybody. Welcome to Bound to Truth. This is Christopher J. Lopez with Jonathan. I don't know why I said
Jennifer.
Jonathan.
Jennifer.
Jonathan Special Kisses Hershey today. He's back with after all his, what did I say? Busyness, adventures, 8,000 kids, probably 8,000 wives. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing pretty good. It's been a rough week, but it sounds like it's been a rough week for everybody.
It has been a rough week, and before we get into that, actually, no, we'll get into a little bit of that, and then we'll do some little advertisement things to it. What's been rough for you, bud?
Oh, it's just kind of felt like the whole world has been collapsing around me. Like, car breaking down, losing a job and things like that. It's just been kind of like one thing after another.
Well,
But
let's back up. You didn't lose a job; they lost you.
like, okay, yeah, that works. Yeah,
Let's be clear. You didn't lose the job; they lost you, right? A
yeah,
valuable.
yeah. I mean, you're right. They refused to compromise on things that were conditions of hire. And after I came back from my leave, they're like, "Yeah, you have to do this, this, and this." It's like I have kids, man. I can't be going and spending 2 weeks in another part of the state out of the month. But and so just because you just got to know when to know your value and your worth and cut ship.
Yeah. And I will say this, and I'll speak on behalf of the people out there. We support you. We love you. We're here for you. And you're a great man with many other talents. And you're going to land on your feet quickly. And I believe that.
Absolutely. So far, I've landed on my dick, so that's close to my feet.
Fair enough. I have
Yeah,
not
there you
landed
go.
on my dick. But
Well, it's
what?
I was gonna say it's hard to do when it's that small, but
I knew it. I knew it. This guy. Anyways, so we're gonna complete Mel's Hole Part Two. But
Bunkolio.
yeah, but before we do that, want to tell you listeners again, how can you reach out to us and also subscribe? So we got bound234 at gmail.com to share your stories, questions, to be interviewed on the show. Again, give you the platform that we've created. We are also on Facebook, X. We're on Spotify, Buzzsprout, Podbean, Apple, YouTube. Whoa, the platforms have gotten bigger. It's great. Hit the subscribe button. The bigger subscriptions and people joining, the bigger platform to have everybody have a voice. And also,
Exactly.
in addition, Jonathan Hershey, if you people here in local Washington want to go
I
on,
now have an OnlyFans.
yeah, no, not the only
it's
fan, but
it's just me riding around Narcanning crack.
oh my goodness. But people here local in Washington, and this is not to separate people who are outside of Washington. He has the new venture where he's going to take you on the ghost tours, and especially spots that we have done investigations. That's going to be on the new upcoming documentary that I think you're going to highly benefit from. Jonathan is not just a mere ghost hunter. He has a lot of experience in other things with both exorcism, military, all that jazz, and he has the right equipment to provide the necessary experience. Highly recommend to reach out to him, especially on Facebook, to join this venture. It's great. I can speak personally for myself, obviously with me joining him doing these things. It's real, it's legit, and you will come back with an experience and hope to God that'll be it for that night. Again, I told John we should have people sign waiver forms because that shit is real, and I can speak personally for myself how real it is. But it's definitely worth the trip. It's definitely worth the experience. So if you want to go out to adventure with Jonathan Hershey and me as a guest, because this is his venture, definitely do that with the email as well as the other platforms I told you about reaching us on, with Bound the Truth, because we're gonna hopefully build that venture and take Zach Baggins out.
Yeah. And you guys have the opportunity to see Chris's lovely hair in person.
Yeah,
And for an extra fee, you guys can take a lock of his hair home.
I was about to say that.
Yeah,
I was about to say that. My goodness, my goodness. So, anyways, so we're gonna get beginning before we get to Mel's hole. John, I didn't tell you about this, but I watched the 3 hour interview with Joe Rogan and Donald Trump.
I'm sorry. That's 3 hours of just
You,
Joe
you,
Rogan and a brain dead monkey
you,
talking
you
to each
you know
other.
what? No, hold on, hold on. It was
Actually, it might be two brain dead monkeys. I don't know.
no, it was actually quite. I listen. I know you're a fan of politics, neither am I. Um, Donald Trump does talk a lot, right? It's the first time,
Yes,
like,
he
yeah, he
does.
does, he does. And I will say this: his ideas and his comments were actually, having to dissect it was kind of impressive. And I'm not trying to
Yeah,
put the political party, but the things when it comes to um, the environment and certain things, military around the world, he had some really good points that were really really spot on that you don't hear in the mainstream media. And like example with people, like example, I come from California, right? So there's this push for electric energy.
yeah,
Like 2035, they're gonna get rid of gas vehicles and all that stuff. That's the plan. But they also have a power problem, right? And they have a water problem, which is unnecessary. That's why we have a lot of wildfires in California. And there's a lot of special interest in regards to not obtaining these resources. And which again, I tell people go watch it, make a decision for yourself. I'm not going to tell you how to think, but I think it's quite interesting the points he made. And also in regards to like the windmills, right? You see those windmills, those power
yeah,
windmills happen.
yeah,
And he made an interesting point, and Joe Rogan agreed with him on this, is like how many like there's certain things that you can't build because of environmental reasons, right?
yeah.
But when you have windmills, how many birds does it kill? And it's not as effective, right? How many
Not
natural,
enough.
yeah, yeah. How many natural, how many, yeah, exactly. And he made some really good points about that. And honestly, I know people are like about the environment, and so am I. I'm about the environment too. But if
Yeah,
we have oil to drill, which we have plenty in this country, I would like that as long as it's done in a safely way where we don't have to depend on other countries. There's so much
yeah,
self-interest into that I mean, again, that's my personal thoughts, is that we depend on other countries, and then what we do is maybe these compromising deals, which is affecting our own people when it comes to
yeah.
taxpayer dollars.
Our big problem is that we don't enterprise within inside of ourselves enough. We rely too much on outsourced everything,
Mhm.
and then you run into a situation where if something shuts off, then all of a sudden we're scrambling to try to figure out how we can make that happen here.
Right, right, exactly. And also to add before we get to Mill's hole, part two is I texted you earlier, November 13th. Do you know why?
Yes, you did.
Do you
I
know
don't
why?
know. I It was November 13th, 1948.
Where the
There was a riot that
1948
happened in Paris.
where did the 1948 come from?
There was a riot that happened in Paris at that time. So that's exactly. I'm kind of a history buff. So
That's that
when you said
actually,
that, that's exactly where my brain went to. I
you
was
know
like,
what?
November 13th, 1948. There was a riot in Paris. What about it?
You know what? That's actually interesting. I have to think about that. So November 13th is to let you know, is this going to be another UFO hearing with Congress?
Oh, I did not know that.
That's why I texted to you November 13th, just to let you think a little bit what the hell he means. And this is supposed to be supposedly the make or break point regarding the evidence of, I mean, we can call it extra dimensional, extraterrestrial beings that are visiting our planet.
I
And
would say, is November 13th going to be that, or is November 13th where they're going to wheel out our little green man and he's going to tell us that, you know, Mark Zuckerberg is actually a reptilian?
you know what? That
And we've
that's a
been right the whole time.
that's been
No,
you
but
know
no, but could it be? It could be one of those things. Like I mean, if it's going to be a final note, like, are they going to be like, yeah, they're here?
well,
Okay, show me.
it's going to be interesting because there's going to be a lot more supposedly, and again, speaking loosely because this is kind of new, supposedly a
Yeah,
lot more people who have been inside with the DoD, the Pentagon, that are whistleblowers are coming out to testify in Congress. That's the deal. And the reason it's taken so long, because well, obviously we had David Grush about a year and a half ago
Yeah.
with
Yep.
his testimony. And I don't blame the whistleblowers because I'm sure they wanted to see what was the ramifications with him coming out, especially officially with Congress.
Does
And
anybody know if he's still alive? Has anybody checked on him?
you know what? It's a great question. I'm not sure, but I will assume that David Grush has also been the inside with these whistleblowers because he has a list of these whistleblowers, about 40 of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And how many potentially could be out this November 13th? It's going to be interesting. It's going to be exciting. I would say this, with whatever information comes out, we'll definitely debrief on it and have our own thoughts, especially if
Yeah.
it's extraterrestrial, interdimensional, demonic. We have no freaking clue, right?
Yeah. We don't know what they're going to unveil
Right.
this time, but I mean, the last
Exactly.
time it was pretty. I mean, it was expected, but also it's still shocking to hear a military official go out and actually be like, "Yeah, yeah, this is real. You
Well,
guys
not
aren't
just
crazy."
not just one, but three, right?
Yeah.
Well, you got David Grush and you have two pilots,
Yeah.
David Fravers and I forgot the other guy because he's unmemorable, unfortunately. He has a great dome, like a good shaped dome. But
Did you say he gives good dome, Christopher?
no, a great dome. No, I did not say that. That's something to say, Hub. And good Lord, I'm surprised you didn't mention Pornhub.
I was waiting until the end.
Oh, good Lord. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'll tell you this.
But since you mentioned it,
No, my goodness. So what's interesting about this time frame is that November 13th, right? This whole thing is coming out. What's also November, John, with our politics? What's also November?
it's the election year, man. It's
The
the
election year.
election month.
So why?
Yeah, so here we are coming
Yeah.
out in November. We're going to reveal aliens. We're going to reveal the alien overlords. It's going to try to tend towards somebody else's direction. One party is going to have the, oh, well, we have the this about the aliens and the this, and the aliens are on our side and support our political views. And they told us, who knows what's going to come from this.
It's going to be interesting. Again, it's all about control the narrative. In addition to that, well, I was talking to John before we started this podcast, is I do have an interview that I'm working on with somebody in the know. That's all I'm gonna say. Not gonna
Yep.
say how or where, but it's real. And the evidence that's been brought of us on TV and the mainstream media regarding the films of these uh, crafts are not the full picture. And the reason for
Yep.
that is, which is understandable, is because we don't want to reveal the technology we have to our adversaries when it comes to filming and all that jazz and so forth. But I'm excited for this interview. And this interview most likely is going to be a second hand from us because they have to remain anonymous,
Yeah.
and which is understandable. We care about
I'm,
we care
you
about
know what I'm curious about, and it just popped in my head, and I'm
yeah, go
sorry to
for it.
interrupt. There's no way the U.S. is the only country or the only power in the world that has contact with aliens. I wonder what other countries have when it comes to their technology too, or whatever. like, you got to be. It's like, why would they just pick us out of everybody? It's got to be kind of like, like so and so got this and so got this. They got to play because unless the aliens are just playing, picking sides. Like, you guys seem like the least dangerous out of all of them. Maybe like, you know
Well, I think
but then again, it could also just be captured technology. We could have just been the lucky ones, like Roswell and all the Area 51 crap and the crashes that happened, and all the stuff that happened around Rainier and St. Helens and things like that. And it's all in the U.S. and the and out in Arizona, all the different kinds of spacecrafts that have allegedly been fallen and crashed. It has happened a lot here, and you don't hear much about that anywhere else. Or is it just that we don't get that media?
well, and I was going to piggyback what you're saying is that I kind of have an answer to that. I think part of it is back at the time, especially around the world, I think those things did happen that there's not reported,
Mm-hmm.
especially when the US is being the number one resource of free speech, even though it's been
Yep.
silenced. But if you think about other countries, a lot of countries don't
Yeah.
have the free speech
Yep.
we have, right? And
Yep.
so things are able to leak more within our country, right?
Mm-hmm.
However, I do believe that it's not just them being interested in us just because we're what the USA is pretty. pretty egotistical and arrogant.
Yeah,
We could talk about the Robusta Forest in Great Britain. I know in Siberia, there's a lot of things that happened in Russia, and also things in China as well. But again, it's all
yeah,
about it's all to me, it's all about controlled information and how countries handle
exactly.
things differently. Now, my question is why hasn't a country released it?
Yeah.
Why? So here, that's my thing too.
The same reason they don't want us to know what they have or anybody else to know what they have, because you got a knife in one hand and a gun in your pocket, and you show somebody your knife, they're 10 feet away from you, you already know you've won that battle.
So is that because they won't expose that we have alien life because of the the tech advances? Would you say?
Yeah, I would say yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Because
Yeah,
it's just like playing the war games. You don't want anybody to know what you really have going on. You want them to see, oh yeah, we have planes, we have boats, we have submarines, we have
right,
missiles, we have nukes, we have this. But then you got to get down to that real stuff. It's like, but we also have this in case they send their planes, their boats, their missiles, and nukes at us. We have.
right.
I'll
No,
just say like we have ray gun or some form of gamma radiation laser or something like that that's going to absolutely make it to where this is our top tier thing.
right,
We don't want anybody to know about this because we don't want anybody to try to top this.
right. You know what's sad about though, John, is that the discovery of an intelligent alien life, how this would not bring the world closer together.
No,
And the
as you said, what was sad about that? My brain goes to what's sad about it is the fact that we don't use this to advance ourselves as a civilization or a unified world. We use this to advance ourselves as a threat,
Mhm.
military wise. We don't look at this like we could use this technology to absolutely create sustainable energy for the world. It's like we can use this technology to create a doomsday device that they can't stop. That's
Exactly.
that's the yeah.
It's like why are we warring with ourselves when there's something that could be outside where we can unify? And it's so tribal.
Yeah.
It's
Sorry,
so
I can hear my kids. I
no,
think the kids are killing
no,
each other.
no, it's okay. It's so tribal, like with our countries, right? Like this should be an opportunity to unify and it sounds kind of anti-Christy like the Revelations, but to unify as a species, not just
Yeah,
by culture, but just as a species. I'm not saying ignore
yeah,
culture. I think culture is important. I think it creates art and creativity and a foundation for who we are. But as a species, we are all the same. And to me,
yeah.
that should be enough reason to unify us.
But unfortunately, they don't. Everybody just looks at how can I be bigger and better than this person over here or these people over here. It's like it's ridiculous.
Yeah. So, all right. Since we spent a lot of time on that one, because I'm like Donald Trump, I just like to hear my own voice and just talk about things and weave into all this stuff. We're going to continue on Mel's Hole Part Two, and
Bungholio.
I know. So my approach with this second episode or second part with Mel's Hole was to kind of go more of the debunking, but when I did more research, it just opened up a lot more of the hole. That sound dirty. Um, of the questions that are happening.
The
So
deeper he goes, the bigger the hole gets.
yeah, so one of the things that's happened to kind of continue on with Mel's Hole, after we had a conversation, one of the things they did was stick a radio down the hole. God,
Mhm.
hole so God, I feel like I'm
Yeah, we're
it's a hole.
we're fucked with this. Like
Yeah,
there's just too many hole jokes. I'm gonna try to make
I
as
know,
many
I
of them
know, I
as I
know, I
can in
know.
this session.
But
I got to
here's
make up for the last one.
but here's the thing. They stuck this radio down the hole
Oh,
and
did they?
it started acted weird
Yeah.
and frequency wise. And it started to broadcast an old baseball game like from 30 years ago at that time.
Oh yeah, I read this story. Yep.
Yeah, and so that's interesting. So it kind of goes back to our is a potential time theory or alternate universe because that's the thing. It was talking about a game 30 years ago, but the outcomes were different compared to the actual game that happened in our timeline.
Or is it an area where all dimensional planes come to a middle and everything is happening there at once. All different realities are happening in this whole at once, and it just depends on which direction you're leaning. If you're a little bit to the right, you're in the 40s. If you're a little bit to the left, you're in the future. If you're, right dead in the center, you're in,
That's a good. You know what?
could
That's a
it
good.
be that this is an area where all of it is centered?
You know what? That's a really good point because just like moving from left to right, front to back, up and down, could
Mhm.
that be like that with alternate realities?
Think about, like, I'm trying to remember what movie it was. Well, honestly, think about like when they do light speed and in Star Wars and things like that.
Mm.
So, and it's the same thing when you're calculating the trajectory of any type of object. You have to figure out, because how our space and our time, there's curvatures to it.
Mhm.
There's also the movement of our Earth. There's the movement of our galaxy. The fact that we're flying through the universe at what was like 500,000 miles an hour,
Well,
something crazy.
multiple things are happening at
Yeah,
once.
there's all Coriolis effect, and there's things like that there, and so you have to think of what you have to be able to angle yourself just right in order to hit your target.
Right.
If you're a little bit off, you're over here. If you're, so, and it would kind of make sense how this would be, or well, it doesn't make sense why this would be, but it makes sense that if this area is like that, that this could be that center of that's why they received this game. But it's not just future or the past, but it's alternate realities. So the game was heard, but it was a different outcome because it's a different reality.
Yeah. Yeah. And like I said, it's definitely an interesting thing. Oh, by the way, side question for you. If you can enter a different reality in history for just to see what the outcome is, what would you visit?
Oh gosh. You know what's crazy, and I know this sounds, and this isn't anything weird. I always wondered what would have happened to our world if we didn't win World War II. I've always been curious on what would have happened if the Germans had actually taken over
It'll
and
be
they had succeeded in what they were doing. Like, what would we be like today if that had happened?
what's funny when you say that. That's two that for me there's two of them. Christ and World War II.
Yeah,
And I keep thinking that
great
game.
pivotal points in history. You got to think about it. Think about the
Yeah,
powers, the fact that that the course of that war would have changed the entire planet.
and it could
You
have.
have to think of the Axis power that was, they were literally taking over the world.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
other than, Chris would have loved it because there would have been way more sausages for him to play with. But but no, and so that's really where it was. It's not that I want that outcome or would ever have wanted that because
Yeah.
fuck the
Yeah.
Nazis.
I,
But
yeah.
it would be interesting to see what would have been the outcome. Like, how would our world be? How would our politics be? How would our civilization, our technological advances be unified under one domination?
Yeah. A very
Not
sad.
a good domination. I don't want any of our listeners to get this wrong.
Yeah.
I am in no way a supporter of any of that bullshit.
No.
But
Exactly.
it's like, how would it have been if they had taken over the world, and their universal view would have been what had dictated our future? Would it have been another 60, 70, 100 years, and then another world war would have changed the outcome? Like, what would have happened? Would we have been locked in this industrial dark age for whatever? There's so many different possibilities that would have happened, and I've always been interested in that. Like, what would have been?
Oh yeah. Well, I think there's nothing wrong with curiosity, and I don't. I honestly think, and again, not promoting anything racial or with the Nazis. All I can say is that their technology was pretty incredible. I mean, that's why we
Yeah,
have ledger paper.
and it was scary, and there was that big technological advance that happened during that time, and the Germans were ahead of the game. They were
Yeah.
ahead of everybody with
I mean,
mad scientists, and and we still, to this day, we are still uncovering crap that they did.
yeah.
They are still uncovering secret bunkers that they're finding in weird places, that they have technology that we didn't even know now that they're just still discovering. Like that guy, where was it? Oh gosh, was it Africa? I'll have to find
It's
the
the
information. This
rains down
happened
in
about three
Africa.
or four months.
Yeah. Sorry.
About 3 or 4 months ago, there was a guy who was doing some exploration out in an area, and he discovered a German bunker. They were
Mhm.
able to infiltrate the bunker, and they found all kinds of like experimental technology that was still functioning. Like the generators still work, the power still work. You have to think about the technology of something that hasn't been used since the 40s to then go in there and fire that bitch up today, and it works just fine. And the different kind, and they had, what was it that they had, some form of plasma power cell that functioned. And
Like,
that
yeah, it sounds
I
like the
loved
Red
all those
Skull. Sounds
videos.
like the Red Skull from freaking Captain America.
There you go. Yeah, oh yeah. It's it's some crazy technology that they found, and that was real popular. There was a lot of information on it for about 48, 72 hours maybe, and then all of a sudden, all of that disappeared because
Yeah.
the censorship came in, and the government probably got themselves involved naturally. Like, there's no way they didn't be like, oh, you discovered what, and then that person disappears and you never hear from them again.
Right. Exactly. And the thing is, when I say that is because I'm curious to see how, besides their idealism, that
Yeah,
is bad.
because fuck that.
It's bad.
Yeah,
But I'm curious, if that was to happen, what technology would have, what we would have today.
yeah.
That's my thought process with that.
Or even if there was just a different outcome of the war, like maybe there was more of a unifying, surrendering beliefs, like you cut the head off of the snake, and you get rid of, actually we got rid of Hitler, but what would it have been if, instead of the war being outright destruction and destroying of all everything German Nazi technology, what if they had decided, we don't really like this Hitler guy and what he believes in, so maybe we'll use this stuff with you guys. Like, maybe, well, that would have been a different outcome if the German scientists and the tech and engineers and things like that had decided that they would rather be allied than Axis.
Right. No, exactly. Exactly. And who knows? I mean, that could be an alternate universe for itself, right? We have no idea. So, everybody, sorry
Yeah,
about that sidetracking with the Mills Hole. That's just an example of what could happen and stuff like that and all that jazz. So, one of the things I want to come back to with Mills Hole. So, after those things that happened regarding putting the radio and stuff down the hole, Mel was scheduled for an update, but was a no-show with Art Bell on Coast to Coast back in 1996, 1997.
uh-huh.
One of the things that happened was, and I'm going to jump a little bit here. A TV crew did go by his property after his claims, the first episode, and and again, confirming this too, is what we talked about last episode, and was occupied by government with a no-fly zone, blacked out the location.
Yeah,
Right,
which doesn't happen for no reason.
right. So
They
John,
don't black site something unless there's something they want to hide, because that's a
so
lot of assets and resources that have to be used to perform something like that. Perimeters, personnel, anti-aircraft, visual technology, because there are scramblers that can absolutely completely distort cameras, all for
but here's the
camera
thing.
technology.
But here's the thing. This is on someone's private property, John.
Yeah.
So
Well,
you
it's not their private property
well,
anymore.
yeah, I know. But so here's my thing. I get that with the military, we get hush hush. We try to keep it out of the adversaries. But what would drive a military government to go on someone's personal property, supposedly, to do that and black up those stuff? Like
It
you,
would have to be that this hole existed. It would have to be that this actually existed.
hmm,
Because why are they going to, or at least they need to research it. Maybe there was a hole there and they needed to do, because it sounds like some things happened. Some things were not normal. Some experiments were done and it wasn't normal. So they need to quarantine and control the situation before somebody else does.
right, right. So after that, after the whole thing with the TV crew being there and so forth, um, Mel, and we talked about this last episode, was offered money. He was offered $3 million to lease the property and leave the country and never come back. Interesting. They're saying,
Pretty
hey,
good back then.
they're saying, hey, you don't have to sell us the land, lease it to us, but leave the country and never come back. Basically saying, hey, we're going to rent your property forever.
Yeah.
You right? So,
I mean, it's a good offer because they could have also just, killed them.
Well, Mel did take it. He took the offer. He took the offer, right?
Okay.
So he left the country for a bit, right? But then he did
Hello?
come. Huh? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So
Oh,
he
I
did.
lost. Can you hear me? Yeah, I lost you for a second.
Okay, hold
I
on.
don't know if it was you or me.
It's
No,
me.
I think it might have been. It's really windy here too. So,
Yeah, it is. So actually,
do you have
hold
your
on,
laptop
everybody.
out in the rain?
Yeah, a little bit. I'm coming back inside. Everybody, because I
Motherfucker's
do my
got his
podcast
lachies
everywhere.
out.
I do my podcast everywhere. Because why? Because I'm a very agitated person. Okay, here we go. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Okay. So he did come back to the country, right? And it's for family reasons. You know, he kind of like, I'm gonna come back to see my family. Either I forgot what the reasons were. But here's the thing: what happened? He was heading out, I think, to see his son. And the day he got back, he saw an altercation on the bus,
Mm-hmm.
and things were happening and so forth. And then the police came in, and then he blacked out, ending up in San Francisco. So his location was, I think, in Southern California, but ended up in San Francisco. 12 days had passed with his missing keys and wallet and needles and missing teeth on his body, and bank account was empty, um, which was interesting. So
Well, they told him not to come back.
yeah, they told him not to come back. But so if you're the government, John, and you threaten this guy, don't come back. Why would they not just kill him? You know, is it because they don't want to make a martyr or create this, make the story true? Is it
I think
scare
that
him
if they would
or?
have killed him, they absolutely would have created an entire stink that they would not have been able to get rid of quietly.
Mhm.
But you mug a dude, you drug him up, you beat the shit out of him, and you make him into some kind of vagabond. Then all of a sudden, he's just this broke, homeless, beat up looking dude that's now got a crazy story to tell.
Just crazy, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. So okay, but he doesn't remember the 12 days he was gone. Like it's insane.
exactly.
It's insane. So
So much probing happened,
I mean,
guaranteed.
yeah, and this is, and he eventually got back. And how the story came out was he did eventually come back to Art Bell on Coast to Coast, and he updated that information what we just shared, but he also updated some new information. And this is going to be your territory, John. So after his interview with Art Bell, a Native America tribe in Nevada contacted him to come out because there was another hole that was discovered. What do you think about that? There was another hole.
That is very interesting. Hold on. Sorry, my kids are interrupting. They just
No, it's okay. You got 8 of them.
they
I'm
have,
impressed. You
yeah,
got.
they want to show me their vampire teeth. Are we? Did it say what tribe? Like, was it Shoshone,
You
Nulu?
you
Like,
know what? You know what's funny? They didn't say what tribe, and actually I should have came with more research with that just to give you some text.
I'll
Um,
probably be able to. I'll be able to figure that out.
but but
Um,
but yeah, but a Native American tried to talk to him about that. Like, hey, we want you to come see this hole since your experience because we had some weird things that happening, which I'll read more into it. But before I get that, what's your thoughts with that? Since you're very familiar with Native um, American tribes and so forth, or I mean, with lore.
other. I mean, I wouldn't. I don't really see anything that's like directly focused around Native Americans, like why they would go. But other than he had experience, so why not go to the guy that doesn't have the resources to kill them, or to come and destroy them, or
Right.
figure it out? And someone who wants the truth for himself, he just had everything stripped from him. His whole life is over. He had already had dealt with this whole, so maybe he might have some insight because you got to remember this guy was living with it.
Right.
So maybe he has some more insight that they wouldn't. So naturally, who do you go to? Do you go when do you call the fire department or the police department when your house is on fire? Like
Right.
it's one of those types of things. Like one person's gonna do no good and the other person might be able to do something about it.
No, good point. No, that's a good point. That's a good point. So to add to that, he went to go see
Yeah.
the hole that was located. But here's the weird thing: the tribe, it's not on tribal land. but the tribe has come across it many times, and it's owned by this.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it's a company called the Basket company. I'm not sure who that is, but it won't be. I mean, I won't be shocked if it wasn't owned by some private company, right? Like we have Lockheed Martin, we have Boeing when it comes to certain things they're secretive, right? And the second hole had a metal collar, and what was it here? Okay, and
It had a metal collar, like it was man-made.
yeah, it was well, that's the thing. They didn't get specific. But all I can say this, they did drop things in the hole. One things they actually one of the natives actually dropped a tool on that metal collar. It made no noise, which is interesting.
Yeah, that's not how metal works. So
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
definitely
And
excuse
then
me, that's
also
definitely weird.
they also dropped a bucket of ice down the hole and kept another one on surface because they want to see how hot the temperature was, right? Like, okay, we're gonna keep
Yeah.
ice bucket here, right? And they dropped this other ice bucket down the hole to see is it like is one gonna melt quicker than the other? Just as an
Yeah.
experiment, see what the
It's an
temperature.
experiment. Yeah.
Yeah. The ice on the surface melted, but the ice in the hole did not. The ice was no longer cold, but became salt and burnt. Somehow this ice that they dropped down the hole became some type of salt. What it's funny when I hear this, you know what's weird? I'm thinking of Sodom and Gomorrah, right?
And pillar of salt.
The
Yeah.
pillar of salt, right?
Yeah.
And so forth. And again, I'm not saying there's a connection, but I'm just connecting the
The
whole
same type of power there.
right. And so yeah, so it did and it kept burning. It would burn for a long time, right?
Mhm.
Um, which is really weird. And then
Like,
also said, go ahead.
no, never mind. I was gonna say like something, and then I remember that chemical compound does not burn for a while. So I don't. I'm not gonna say it.
No, it's okay. So this time they thought let's put a live specimen down there. Of course, there's no human beings gonna go down that hole.
And they put down a raccoon, and out came Christopher Lopez.
That's true. Here I am, Waka Waka.
What
So this time they sent down a sheep, which is really weird.
a
Kind of cool,
weird pick of an animal.
right? A bit.
It's
That's
probably what they had. Like, what do we got laying around? Somebody looked over in the distance. They're like, "Is that a sheep? That's
yeah.
sheep. Get it."
It's kind of biblical if you think about it. The sacrificial lamb. Yeah.
It is. Yeah, it is a little bit.
Yeah. So they left that sheep down there for 30 minutes, but stopped moving. And when they brought it up, it was opened up and cooked from the inside. And they discovered, I know, and they discovered a tumor moving and opened it. And when they opened it up, it looked like a seal with human eyes. And then this animal, this seal, wanted to go back the hole, was drawn to go back to the hole. Weird. Okay. Any
Xenomorph,
thoughts on that?
fucking xenomorph.
Yeah.
I
It's weird, right?
that's a weird one. That's I don't uh, see if I can wrap my head around that a little bit. I can't
I
imagine what the
couldn't.
creature was that was inside of it growing. The only thing I can think of is a fucking like if from the movie Alien or Prometheus, it's like
Yeah.
what is going to rapidly grow inside of somebody other than some kind of parasitic thing that 100% feasts and whatever it is, it sounds like it emits some form of high output radiation to where it not only used the host to grow, but then it cooked it from the inside out.
Well, and that's the thing. They call it a seal. I'm not saying it's it's funny. I should elaborate. They're saying that,
Yeah,
right? But
it was
yeah,
a seal like.
yeah, seal-like. And it could have been something that was, again, that sheep was dropped into a potential alternate reality where there was some type of parasite that absorbed it, right? And planted this
Yeah.
embryo, right? Like aliens. So months later, and an update on the ice and burn and then was it here months later an update on the ice and burn. Okay, so the ice that they had that was burning for months.
Yeah.
Oh, here's the thing. So the ice was burning for months. They had it in a
For
cabin,
months.
and it collapsed the house, creating a new hole, right? So this ice that they burned, they kept it in the
Yeah.
cabin, right? Like, thinking, hey, it's burning. I'm not gonna question it. I got some free heat, right? You hear.
Yeah.
So they it was burning for months, and then eventually what happens, that ice burned so like passionately, so heavily that it caused the house to collapse. and then it created a new hole. It actually created a new hole, which is interesting.
It's almost like it's whatever compound it is able to create that with the energy it produces burning.
Right, exactly. And that seal, quote again, I quote seal, this organism came back from that different hole. Because it eventually did jump back to the hole, the one that came out of the sheep. It
Yeah.
did eventually jump back in the hole, but it came back from this other hole. And here's a weird thing. This is where it goes so freaking weird. And again, this is
If
based
it wasn't weird already.
I know, based on Mel's interview. The seal started to speak to them through beeps and clips that was supposedly translated, and how the ice is dangerous in the wrong hands and could destroy the planet. Mel stated that he has a recording and would bring it to the next show, but then was never heard from again, and his line was disconnected.
Yeah. Well, goodbye.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the summary of the story. It's so fantastical that you have this magic seal, right? It comes up from a different hole. Speaking beeps and clips, and they're able to translate it. I'm not sure how they can.
Yeah, that's the part that I mean, unless it like came through as like Morse code, that would be the only way I could
And I thought about that too.
like translating that.
Mhm. And I thought about that too,
Just
John.
coming up with. I mean, there's
Um,
binary code too that can be used.
well, it's
Let's say
interesting,
you
but
can
here.
decipher. There's different ways that you can do it.
So here's my thought process. Besides
But
it,
back then, I don't think that stuff was. Yeah. Go ahead.
so my thought process, like, how would this ice or this component destroy the planet? If it's speaking to like, hey, you can't be in the wrong hands. It
It's a
could
new
destroy.
compound. It's a dangerous compound.
Really.
Yeah, like a new element. It has to be some form of. You think about it. You dropped ice down. It came up in this salt-like substance that burned so intensely hot and for a long period of time. That could be some form of sustainable. I'm going to use the term nuclear since there's nothing really beyond that that's as destructive. Some form of like nuclear style of sustainable energy, but when put into the wrong hands, what like sure, nuclear power plants are great. The energy is awesome. It's clean. It's
Right.
self-sustainable. But when used for the wrong things, what does it do? It eradicates. It destroys. It is absolutely. And there are people that want to do that. There
Right.
are people in the world that want to just destroy the world.
Well, and it's
So
like,
in the wrong hands, it's bad. In the right hands, it could be used for good. But do I believe that thing should ever exist? I don't think so because it will end up in the wrong hands eventually.
no, exactly. You think about the whole thing with fire, right? Prometheus bringing fire to us, right? The Greek gods. And fire is both, oh, so cute. Fire is both a benefit and also a destructive compound. Because fire can create warmth. It can also create cooking for food, right? It could be such a benefit for us, but it also could be destructive when it comes to burning a house, burning a
Yeah.
forest. And I'm comparing that substance to that. And I'm wondering if this substance, if it's some, it's I kind of think if this was extra dimensional, again, I can't explain the hole and how the ice turned into what it did. But it could have been something that was switched in. I mean, maybe the ice didn't turn into that. Maybe the ice was switched for something other substance from a different alternate reality. Or
Or maybe it was gathered. Maybe it went into another dimension, and when it brought up, it scraped this new substance into the bucket. That could be
yeah,
it. And if you drop that ice bucket down slightly to the left, you bring up a seal. You go too
yeah.
far forward, you bring up a 30-foot dildo.
Well,
You don't know
yeah.
what the hell is going to come up. Like how I would have. And that, unfortunately, I'll never probably ever get to do those experiments. Nor do I really want to bring up a xenomorph because we all know how that happens. I've seen that movie, but there's so many different possibilities of how that could have got in there. It's almost endless, and that's the great part about doing what we do here is a lot of times there's more questions than answers, and that's
Right.
what I love about the whole situation. Would I love to have more answers for this? Absolutely.
Well,
Do I ever think I'm going to come up with them? No, because how in the world am I going to be able to secretly go behind the United States government's back and get over to this hole and drop a bucket of ice in there and see
well,
if I come out with the eternal thermite?
right. And you know what, too? It kind of reminds me of good old PNW. It's like crab fishing, right? You drop something in, you hope, you want to get crabs, but sometimes you bring up something else. Even though it's on our same plane universe, the whole point of it is that that we brought something that should not be here, right? And that
Yeah,
and that because even though it could be, and that's the thing too, if we were to go to an alternate reality, which personally I believe we have the means to do, that's not public, personally.
yeah,
Again,
I would agree with you,
you know, you know,
especially because like, what were we were talking? Were we talking about this on a podcast, or was this just in person when we were talking about how I believe that the Mandela effect is actually them playing with different realities?
I agree.
I think
No,
it
no,
was
we did. That
yeah,
was the last podcast. We were
yeah,
talking
yeah,
about, yeah.
and so I won't go into too much more detail about that, but I truly believe that that's what happens. I don't believe that we're just shifting realities all the time, because there would have to be some kind of, well, I guess there are negative physical effects that's going on. But if you think about the theory about going in time and stepping on a bug, or saving someone's life, or moving a coffee cup, we
Right,
don't know what that does. That one coffee cup being moved over to the right could be someone's distraction, and they could never have wrote that scene in a movie because they saw a coffee cup,
right.
or because you did something and changed the flight path of a bird and it ran into their windshield, or there's billions and endless
Well,
possibilities of
well, well,
why
well,
we end up with the Mandela effect. And do I believe that they're dropping people in these areas? We're going to do an experiment. I'm going to put you down this rope, and we're just going to put you at this degree. Tell
mm,
me what you see. Come back out. Are they alive? Good. Where were you? Oh, I was in 1932. Okay, well, what about over here? I was in the future. And what about over here? Oh, they came. There's nothing left. They were eaten. It could be them messing with that experiment, or they could have done those, found certain compounds, found certain types of technology, came back, created something like CERN, and now they're trying to recreate it in a more controlled environment than dropping something in a hole. Now they
agree.
have something where they're able to open up a portal that they can control with the device like CERN.
Yeah,
Because really, in all reality, why are we trying to create new elements and new compounds and new types of things? That these are unstable things that could absolutely destroy the entire universe, and they're just playing with it.
right.
You
They're
can't tell me that there's not some form of manual, like, you can't do this, this, and this. Like, where did that technology? They weren't like that. Somebody wasn't sitting there one day and said, I'm going to build this device, I'm going to send these atoms and molecules and and spin them around at a certain speed, they're going to collide with each other, and then I'm going to create a compound.
right.
That There has to be something behind that. Sure, somebody can come up with that, but it doesn't really make any sense, because all it takes is being off by 1 billionth of a degree, and you have eradicated the entire universe.
And you know what? I agree with you 100% with that. And
There has to be some kind of manual for it,
well,
and it had to have come from somewhere.
I believe this in the Mandela effect, right? I believe that when it comes to our cosmic space, when it comes
Yeah,
to our Earth, when it comes to our trajectory, when it comes to gravity, when it comes to all these things that are mixed together, even for us to exist is a hard thing, a very improbable thing, right? So my thing is that I think that we've discovered this exists, and again to complement what you're saying, is that we know it exists. We're trying to find ways to find, what do you call it, um, intergalactic or interdimensional coordinates,
yeah.
how to do things. Because if you could do that, I mean, think about it. If you could do that, how much power and how much control could you have in the universe? If you can harness, like
You get to
example,
send somebody to any point in time in history
yeah,
to redirect the course of history to benefit you, or to benefit whatever proprietary individual or corporation or
yeah,
government is in control of this. They can completely, who knows, our entire and this goes back to the whole, we're just living in a simulation. I don't think that we live in a simulation where the sky is a computer generated this. I think we live in a simulated reality where there's somebody attempting to control the outcome of reality, and they have been potentially doing these experiments to alter reality in a way to end up with an end goal, and whether that end goal be being certain superpowers in play, or it be the absolute, the revelation that happens and it's the end of the world. Could it be a demonic thing where this is all supposedly happening to bring forth the end of the world sooner, or to just put somebody or a certain family or keep certain people in power
Right.
forever, so that, you got to think about comfortable certain superpowers in the world have been sitting forever. They will never have to lift a finger to do anything forever. Their entire generations for all of time will never want for anything.
Yeah.
And who wouldn't want to keep it that way? If I had the opportunity to give my family everything for eternity, I absolutely I would do anything in my power to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this, if Mel's Hole's real, right? And or just the resource regarding, like we talked about the burning ice and all stuff.
Yeah.
To me, it's the same thing as us. If everything I'm saying is a natural, if it's correct in its natural sense regards to weaving through time, what if this resource is like our oil and our coal? The difference
Yeah.
is it's so what do you call it? So
Unstable.
unstable,
Yeah.
unstable, but it's like another resource where it's like, hey, this could be a potential resource to control outcomes and realities.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, as
And is it a natural? So what do we always do, especially as the human race, with our science and our technology? We find something, and I'll use it for example, like a natural dye. The fact that you can use plants and different types of things to naturally dye things, but we find a way to make it artificial, to make it cheap and do it quicker. And
exactly
this could have been a natural way to take these pathways through time and space
right.
and reality. And now we could be, instead of, it's harder to do it that way. There's the trial and error, because you got to think about it. If it is anywhere near what my theory is about dipping it here or dipping it here or putting it here or at this angle, or maybe I got to throw it in at this speed to hit this timeline. If we can make that artificial,
Mhm.
like something like CERN, where instead of this, I can then create this exact degree of point in reality and open up a portal to maybe here, then you're able to control it a little bit more, control you're not sacrificing people, resources, billions of dollars, because there's only so many times that you can drop a person in a hole and them not come back before people start getting pissed off, families start talking about shit.
Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you have to control it, you have to make it artificial. And could Mel's Hole have been our natural resource for interdimensional travel? Potentially. Could it have been what led us to the scientific breakthroughs of trying to artificially recreate that? Potentially. um and will we ever know? Probably not.
I
But
I agree. Yeah.
is it great and theorize and do it, and will I think about it all the time? Yes, absolutely. Do I believe that it is a possibility? Very strong, 98% probability
Yeah. It,
that this would have been where this had come from, because as people, we tried to take natural and make it unnatural so that we can do it easier. Not even better, but easier.
cheaper.
Yeah.
Cheaper. You
Just
know,
like with our food dyes, with
no,
with with genetically altering corn. One of the easiest things in the world to grow is corn. I grew a bunch. You remember my corn that I grew in the yard?
oh
I
yeah.
literally threw some in a small little raised bed. I had like 30 stalks of corn.
Yeah.
Super easy, naturally done. But they need to do it on a mass scale. So let's genetically alter it to be resistant to this, and it have a hormone growth rate of this, so that we can produce it at this rate and this speed. And they did do the same thing with flour. That's
Yeah.
actually how you think about it. 30, 40 years ago, what is it called? Celiac disease didn't exist, and it's because of they genetically altered wheat and flour, even down to the way it's grown. And now there's this new enzyme that attacks the bacteria in our stomach, erodes the lining of the walls of our stomach, And we created that disease.
Yeah.
We created celiac disease. It didn't exist before we started experimenting with shit we probably never should have done. But
Yeah,
we
exactly.
did it because we made it cheaper and easier. And when it's cheaper and easier, more people make money. And
Well,
it's going to be the same thing
here's
with
the,
time travel.
well,
If you can
yeah,
do it cheap,
yeah,
boom.
yeah, exactly. And to piggyback on what you're saying, I know we're going out, we're talking about Mills Hole, but to piggyback about just the whole point of government, and when it comes to the whole system and how capitalism works. And again, I'm a fan of capitalism, but it also has a dark side. We
Yeah,
got something that I'm going to sum up what John was saying. We got our food distribution that is genetically altering things, dying things to make it cheaper. And then what happens is you get sick from it. And then what happens is when you get sick from it, who do you depend on to heal you? John, who do we depend on to heal us?
exactly.
The pharmaceutical
We
company.
you get down, we depend on the government. I won't even say pharmaceutical companies because they are completely controlled by sole proprietors that are out there, and people don't really realize that it has nothing to do with healing people. It has everything to do with putting a band-aid over a bullet hole. Sure, it's going to slow the bleeding down,
It's
but you're going to eventually need this, and then this, and then this, and this, and then you're going to need this and this to counteract the effects of this and this, and it's
yeah.
a spiral, and
And,
it's a
and
downhill spiral, and it's the same thing.
yeah, exactly.
We
So now
create diseases and we create problems so that there's
you have a demand.
something to fix it. Yeah.
You have a demand. So let me ask you this, John. And when I say this to everybody out there, I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I have my own choice, and I respect people who vaccinate. When's the last time
Yeah.
you took a shot, John?
I'll say you're breaking up, bud.
Oh, sorry. When's the last time you took a shot? Like a flu shot? Any of the shots?
Oh, and last night I took a couple shots of tequila. I took a couple shots of the Grand Mayan tequila. So,
Oh, that is beautiful.
sorry. Um, uh, oh gosh, man. Um, so other than the regular vaccines that were basically forced upon me by my parents, because we didn't have choices when we were kids, unless your parents were
Right,
anti-vaxxers.
right.
I have never received a cold or a flu shot ever in my life. Now, no, actually, I didn't even do it with any of my children because my wife kept trying to make me get the flu shots and make me get the only one that I got was no, I didn't even get that either. I was going
Well,
to say the
how about
RSV
this?
one.
How long ago was it?
I was a child.
Okay. So here's my point.
My
I
last course of vaccinations. Oh, other than the COVID, I was forced to get the COVID vaccine. It was that or don't work. Or it was actually that or I didn't get to live in the area that I was in, basically.
see that's yeah, I hear you, man. And for me, I'll just say this again. I'm not trying to push people on this. It's for me. I didn't receive the COVID. I haven't received a flu shot for over 10 years, and the times I've been
Yeah.
sick have been rare. And I'm not saying because
Mm-hmm.
I'm superhuman and or I have the answer to everything. All I can say is that I really want to depend on the God-given antibodies that are in my body, right? And again, it
Yeah.
goes back to the whole pharmaceutical thing. It's like to me, it's a moneymaker thing. But anyway, I know we're going off the Mills whole thing. But the whole point is like it's like when we try to manufacture something that's natural and cheapen it, there's consequences. There is consequences to
Yeah.
it. And you know what?
Well, I just look at this, and this will be an interesting tidbit before it gets out of my mind. This might get our listeners thinking about something. So I've noticed a pattern,
Mhm.
and it's a pretty serious pattern. And I've actually started doing some research into it, and I've noticed that it's only affecting COVID vaccinated people.
Hmm.
Um, it's actually only affecting people that got a certain brand of the COVID vaccine. And I'm not even going to say it because I don't want these people coming after me and assassinating me. There has been a massive rise in
Pfizer.
appendicitis.
Sorry.
Who
Excuse me.
said that?
Sorry. Sorry.
Uh,
Sorry.
there
I
has been
sneezed.
yeah, there has been a massive rise in appendicitis. My wife, her mother, her
Mhm.
grandfather, a bunch of people that I'm hearing all over people talking about, oh, so and so had to get their appendix removed. This, and they are, as I've started digging into it, these are all vaccinated people.
Hmm.
Everybody down the line, and it's actually kind of almost been a universal thing there. And I had used to be very privy and had access to a lot of medical records, and that, you know, you get bored when you're going through and seeing
Oh
medical
yeah,
statistics that people
yeah,
don't get to see. But from a Google research, you get, you know, access to certain types of medical documents and records that are out there that you don't get unless you work in a hospital.
right.
um and there has been, in the last 5 years, there has been a 614% increase in appendicitis.
Jeez.
And within that increase, there has been a 312% increase on the need to remove it. So a lot of times you can bring it back down. Or not, sorry, I'm not the appendix, sorry, gallbladder. I apologize. I knew it right when I started getting into the sentence about gallstones. I was like, I'm saying appendix. It's the
You're dead
gallbladder.
if it's
Yeah.
the
Uh,
best
I
sentence.
was, so, and gallbladder problems. So sorry. So a lot of times when you end up with a gallstone, there are natural things that you can do to prevent it. As a matter of fact, I ended up with some gallbladder problems after Sophia was dealing with it, and I took this natural thing, and it's gone. It's gone. It's gone. And I just continue to use it because it's good. It's actually really good for your kidneys. It's really good for your body. It's just a natural cleanser.
So
But
can I pause this real quick? Is that something
yeah,
Sophia made?
she can.
You know what,
Yeah,
everybody out there, if you want a natural healing supplement, reach out to us. Sophia's got the answer.
she is an apothecarian.
She's a
She has, yeah, she has an apothecary. It's a licensed business, and it has changed lives. Like,
Exactly, and I
yeah,
want to promote that too because
yeah,
it's not just about about making money. It's about health and using the natural
yeah.
resources giving us.
Her elderberry elixir will literally get rid of just about any form of respiratory illness. As a matter of fact, it is a barrier from COVID. It actually can attach to your DNA and help prevent COVID. And they are trying to use it um, in a clinical setting, but of course they're making it synthetic. So
Well,
you're completely removing the God given part of it, and, you know, synthesizing it to just, you know, make it easier, make it bigger, better, better, or so to speak. But is it going to work? I don't know.
and it cured my herpes, so it's
Yeah,
great.
it did. And he had, his herpes was so aggressive that it was literally just festering. And he wasn't even allowed to ride in the car when we went to ghost hunts. He had to ride
Yeah,
on the
yeah,
roof.
yeah. John said it looked like a freaking leopard.
Yeah, it had its own it actually had its own area code, but no, but anyways, um, so these gallbladder issues, like, my mother-in-law just had hers removed 2 days ago. Had to, because it came up. Found out that the father, that the grandfather, and that these people and several other people. I'm hearing it all over. All these people. I actually was listening to several conversations when we were at the grocery store. We were at Costco, and I heard multiple conversations from different people about, oh, so and so just had to have their gallbladder removed, and this lady was talking about how she's just all of a sudden started dealing with this pain in the upper quadrant that she had, and I was thinking to myself, that's the fucking gallbladder. And so you got to think about it. We are doing something, and the mRNA virus that they use to create the COVID vaccine, it is designed to alter your DNA.
Exactly. No,
It is
exactly.
it is not designed to attach to it. It is not designed to form or work with it. It is not designed to be like a a good symbiote that will work with your body. It is designed to attach and alter your body.
Well, and
That
that's
is what the vaccine was meant. It was meant to do, so that we could alter our DNA to not be attacked by the COVID vaccine. Which, come on, like,
yeah. Well, it's like that pill you hear in the commercials, right? When I
yeah,
text you about when I texted you earlier today, this morning, regarding how you have these companies saying take this pill, but it's going to cause 10 more problems, right?
yeah. And
And
then you're gonna need to take this pill from our buddies over here at
but
Johnson,
yeah,
and that they got something going on.
but what does it do to the money wheel?
Cycle.
It's
And
something.
the crazy part about it is, and this comes back to that whole government conspiracy, Mel's Hole, CERN, big pharma, politics. There are these, like, handful of people that are sitting up at the top of the pyramid, and all of that money is going in a conveyor belt down, back around, and right back into their pockets. It is literally a cycle. It's
Exactly.
like, can't even go to a fucking grocery store and spend money and it not end up. You look at who owns that grocery store. Well, who owns that LLC? Who owns this? And it goes all the way back up to these people again.
Yeah.
Same thing with that. You look at something which actually you can get naturally, like IV,
Yeah.
and You can create that naturally. And you look at the manufacturer, the main corporate manufacturer of ibuprofen, and it is once again owned by those same individuals,
Yeah.
or one of them, if not multiples. And it's crazy how even some of those individuals are owning companies together. And that goes back to those people who want to stay in power, who want to alter the narrative, who want to control the population, the media, the freedom of speech, the dimensions, the realities, and they want to use all of that to keep themselves in power because they are the true rulers of the world. They're silent. They just have so many different enterprises that where it doesn't look like they're actually in control of our planet, but they are.
Yeah.
The only person who I don't think they're in control of is probably Vladimir Putin, because that guy, I think, if ever approached by those people, would just punch him in the dick.
Dude,
Um,
he's shirtless.
yeah, shirtless riding a bear. Anyways, but and that goes back to the same control of the realities.
Yeah,
If
exactly.
you can be in control of those, and these people have their hands in the government, deep, deep in the government, deep in the military, deep in the pockets. Like, doesn't matter who you are, somebody has a price for something.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
So
whether that price is a monetary money value, or I'll kill your family,
yeah,
or I know where it doesn't matter what that price is. Somebody has a price and you can control them. And if
right.
you are powerful enough, you can do that. And the best way to control that is having the top tier technology, and having something like Bell's Hole back in that time, being able to control, to experiment on that, could have been what led us to things like CERN. What led us, that's really where I think that CERN might be the artificial Bell's Hole.
It's a possibility. I mean, taking the information
It's
from,
an open-ended
well,
possibility.
it's
Yeah, I can't prove
totally,
any of this, but
totally. Well, when you think about black holes, right? They're very natural
yeah,
resource, right? How we artificiate black holes and theories behind that.
yeah. But
So,
I will say, if I disappear one day, we were right.
oh,
So we can prove it. If I just vanish and you don't hear from me,
yeah.
or Chris does, you absolutely know that we were right.
Well, if I vanish just because I'm just a loner, it's all good.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
here.
He's
I'm gonna do my Art Bell impression here in the bunker of Nevada, Mexico, whatever you call it. I'm here as Art Bell for today's Coast to Coast AM.
the next podcast we might do. It might sound like I'm in a war zone fighting off Waco style, the feds outside of my
And
house.
you know what, too, John? If you were in a war zone, you would still do this podcast.
Yeah, I would.
Hold on,
Honestly, I'd do the podcast live. Just like, come here, you commie bastards.
come here, not today, America. So before we end this episode, John, we were speaking for an hour and 40 minutes. My God, because we have a good time.
Oh yeah.
My question to you, with all that we talk about, Mel's Hole and the things we've discussed, is there an end game or is there not an end game with the powers to be?
The end game is going to be one of two things. It's either going to be the continuous control of our world or the destruction of it. There is no in between.
So I lied. I have one more question. What's the
Yeah.
benefit?
The benefit is going to be keeping those people in power, is going to be controlling the world so that they can stay on top, so that nobody ever over. Because if you think about it, if right now collectively every single person, every single civilian in the US got up off their ass, walked into their military or government facility and overthrew the government, because I guarantee you there would be a lot of military, a lot of police. There's a lot of fuckers out there with a lot of good firepower. I
Mhm.
mean, shit, you go out to Port Angeles, out where we live, there's a dude that's out there that you drive by his property, he's got actual fucking tanks. Whether they work or not, I don't know, but you drive by his place, there's at least 4 of them. So there, it'd be a strong, and we overthrew our government and forced an entire reset on the entire US government. All you'd have to do is wait a little while until the powers that be would come into play and be like, we want to give you an offer, and then you just X them out immediately. But those snakes will eventually show themselves to the new superpower because they want to be in control.
Yeah.
So the benefit is making sure that they stay in a position of power to be able to control power or have those things. And as long as they're able to do that, we will be sitting here with our bread and circus.
Yeah. You know what? It reminds me of what you said about that is like the movie Braveheart, where
Yeah.
they try to bribe William Wallace, right? To give him
Yeah.
lands and rights and all stuff. He's like, am I going to be Judas? You
Yeah.
know? So that's it. That was really, it's funny. I did not expect that type of answer, but I'm not surprised because you're a
Yeah.
very person. Okay, everybody. John, stay on for a little bit. We're gonna end
Don't
this.
tell me what to do.
I will not tell it to John. Can
I'm
I ask you stay on for a little bit? Thank you. Everybody,
where's the end button? Here it is.
everybody, thank you again for joining the show. And before again, I repeat how to reach us. Go to
Here it
Facebook.
comes,
Look
everybody.
for Jonathan Harshey to experience the ghost adventures here in Washington. Doesn't matter if you're in the state, out of state, it's worth the experience. He's not just a guy with equipment to ghost hunt. He's got a lot of experience regards to other things, and which I'm not going to repeat because it's secretive. But I'll tell you this, it's worth the venture, especially with my experience with him and also doing this filming. Now, how can
And feel free to just reach out to us on the podcast, email or anything like that. It's
absolutely.
not like Chris doesn't know how to get a hold of me.
Exactly. And how to reach us, boundtruth34@gmail.com, Facebook, Podbean, Buzzsprouts, X, YouTube, Spotify, Apple. Please hit the subscribe button. The platform is yours. Your
And
voice.
Pornhub.
Dang it. Dang it. I shouldn't have brought that up. Yeah, you know what? Eventually, when John keeps saying that, I'm probably going to do one for Pornhub just to get it out of his head. Jesus.
Pornhub. Well, you can find Chris on Pornhub, X Hamster, OnlyFans. I don't know any other ones. Chris, I'm sure. Come on, list it off.
XNXX, Red
There
Tube,
we go.
Tube.
Red Tube.
No, God, I just sold myself out. All right, everybody.
Reddit.
Reddit. Oh, good Lord. All right, everybody. Have a great day. Love you all and see you.
Except for that one person, you know who you are.
Yeah. And see you on the other side. Peace.